Welcome back to Fern's Hot Takes, and today I brought along a good friend of mine. Say hello to the camera.
What's up?
This is my friend Zach. He'll be joining me for my next episode, or next podcast, basically. And I'll be leaving a link to his Instagram down in the description. Definitely go give this man a follow. But you and me were doing some looking at the draft, which we said we were going to do. You watched all 3 days?
I watched the first two and I listened to the second one.
I watched all 3 days. I stopped after around the 6th round, but safe to say, draft looked at first kind of uneventful, but I think the first two rounds definitely gave some shock. With the biggest one, with Green Bay deciding to trade up to the number 26 spot and take Utah State quarterback Jordan Love. I don't think anybody saw that coming. Did you?
Nah, not a chance.
And what was crazy about it was, looking at the media, I saw Green Bay fans go mental. They lost their minds seeing this because everyone's looking at the situation like, why take a quarterback now while Aaron Rodgers is still there? We needed wide receivers. And yes, I can understand because Green Bay didn't really do much to address the wide receiver issue and the problem. But the amount of hate I saw go this kid's way, especially on his social media, was pretty harsh because in reality, he doesn't get a say in it, really. No, he gets chosen to wherever he goes. And Green Bay saying he's not going to be good, you have to also think, yes, Aaron Rodgers still has years of production left. The guy's 36 and only has 2 years left on his contract. And looking at how older quarterbacks have been playing in the league recently, with Phillip Rivers, Tom Brady taking a step back, Eli, who got a lot worse, Ben Roethlisberger, who looked bad to start off the year and is coming off an injury. Older quarterbacks are showing that they're not able to be as stable, really.
I mean, yeah, there's something to be said for that, but on the other hand, like, this was coming in, we all knew this was going to be one of the largest wide receiver pools to find talent in recent memory.
Definitely, I'll give you that.
This was definitely going to be, like, with Judy, Lamb, Ruggs,
Jefferson, Ayuk, Trey Higgins. There was a lot of, I'll give you that, there's a lot of talent.
With all the people coming in, and there's still going to be a deep QB class next year. So the idea to rush out and get a quarterback in the first round, to trade up and take a QB in the first round this year, just doesn't seem particularly intelligent to me.
I would say that, but at the same time, with the way things have been with Green Bay, yes, Rodgers had a productive year. The biggest problem I see is that the guy's gone through 3 injuries in the last 3 seasons, 2 concussions, and a leg injury he fought all throughout the 2018 season. So I understand Green Bay's logic with this, and it's not right to make a comparison about that this happened with Aaron Rodgers when they took him, because he still has years left on his contract. He's still got 2 more years left. But I think that this is a good signing at the end of the day because the kid's got a lot of potential and he's learning behind a good player. And especially because you have Aaron Rodgers there, there's no need to rush him out onto the field like what the Chargers probably will do for Justin Herbert. I think Jordan Love is going to be their future, and he went to the right team personally. And next year, if they don't fix it this year, and they have plenty of time to trade for a wide receiver this year, if they get off to a good start, I think Green Bay fans just need to relax and give Jordan Love a chance, because odds are Rodgers is only going to be there till the end of his contract. I don't see them keeping him after that. So Love will be the long-term option, and I get why people are concerned, but I think people just need to relax and give him a shot.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that.
And from one QB to another one that I did not expect, when I was looking at the draft, I probably had Jalen Hurts going around 4th round-ish. I had no idea that this was about to happen. I was expecting him to go to either Pittsburgh or the Patriots. He was taken in the 2nd round, like, I think it was like pick 42, 43, something like that. Philadelphia. Now, this was one that definitely had me scratching my head, because with Jordan Love, I understand, because Aaron Rodgers is getting up there in age. This one, I kind of had I looked to myself and I was thinking, what was the reason? And I was trying to see, you got any insight on that?
So, the only thing I can think of is Carson Wentz every year has gotten hurt in some way or another. He always seems
Especially right before the playoffs.
He always seems to get hurt in the biggest games.
Right before the playoffs. Yeah.
Either right before the playoffs or last year in the playoffs. So, like, the only thing I could see is he's a backup plan. Plus, I could also see them doing the same thing that the Ravens did in the 2018 season.
Well, like start Flacco and use Lamar as, like...
So using like a 2 QB set, because I feel like the NFL is trending in that direction. Using the mobile quarterbacks and then using the quarterbacks for more than just to throw the ball.
I'll give you that, because the Saints do that sometimes with Drew Brees and Taysom Hill. I saw Titans do it a couple times when Ryan Tannehill and Mariota was there. Even when Mariota's on the bench, they used a wildcat formation sometimes with Mariota.
And then you got the Heisman package for Baltimore.
Yeah.
With Robert Griffin, Lamar Jackson, and Mark Ingram.
That's definitely a good point you bring up. So that could be an option as well. The problem is, I think if Philly decides to rush him out, especially because I feel like this was an option if Wentz got injured. Because a big example was when they needed Wentz and he wasn't there. Wild card. I'm a Seahawks fan, for the people who don't know. And I looked at that game and I thought we shouldn't have won that. Because, say for like the one gash, Philly should have beaten us. But because Wentz got injured for the 3rd time for the playoffs, it kind of had him worried. And also, I mean, it could be the long-term option, because the point I was going to bring up was once, after his rookie year, had the MVP season where they was like 13-3, and they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Right before they won the Super Bowl, he got injured, and we all know what happened. Nick Foles happened, and we all smile at the end of the day. But if you look at the next 2 years after, especially when you look at his stats, they were really underwhelming. Especially because everyone expected Carson Wentz to come back and, trend the same direction as that MVP season. And since then, I've watched a lot of game film on him. I don't see it. I see middle of the road. And for a team in a bad conference, they shouldn't be striving for middle of the road. They should be striving to reach the top of that really a cakewalk division right now, with Dallas being a mess, and the other 2 teams need about all this century to get good again. But I just found this kind of confusing. I get the idea, but I feel like this could definitely backfire Philly, especially because with the idea of who they add in the 1st round. But it's just one of those, you just gotta play it by ear and hope the decision they make will definitely pan out in the future.
That's the only thing you can do at this point.
But I definitely do hope they do give him a shot. The biggest problem for me is that I just don't want to see him get rushed out if Carson Wentz gets injured, especially because Philly took a massive hit with wide receivers this year. Between the fact Aguilar is gone, as inconsistent as he was still like a big playmaker on their team. Deshaun Jackson can't stay healthy. He hasn't been healthy a lot in his latter part of his career. And they're thinking about dumping off Alshon Jeffrey. So what does that leave? Ertz?
Jaylen Rieger.
Greg Ward, their 4th-string quarterback, who had the most receiving yards in like the last 4 games with like 100. So if they bring him out, that would be, in my opinion, a really bad situation for him, regardless of how good and consistent their coaching and staff is. But this is one of the things you just got to play by ear and see what happens. And from the draft, we go to something I've been meaning to talk about for a while. I think we all know what it is. the elephant in this room, if we must say. He looks like an elephant. Let's be honest, Bill O'Brien. I don't think I've ever seen such horrible GM decisions in the past decade of my life watching football than I've seen with this. It started with Clowney, and as a Seahawks fan, I found this hilarious. They got him for silly string, a package of silly string. They got him a third-round pick, Jacob Martin, and Bartavius Mingo. And Bartavius Mingo is, by the way, gone. So that's some move that helped the Texans. And it didn't matter because, yeah, they still went back to the playoffs. They won a playoff game. That's more because of their team and not because of Bill O'Brien. Only to end up with the biggest choke of all time. Tell me how you get off to a 24-0 lead and then decide it's a good idea to fake a punt in your own 30 with a 30-year-old safety. That's a good decision. Well, safely said, we all saw what happened. Chiefs blew him out of the water. And we go into the offseason just scratching our heads. And we just thought Texans were going to fix some issues. A couple issues. Mainly on that god-awful secondary of busts. No, they decided to do one of the dumbest decisions I've ever seen in my life. And let me just read this because no amount of me explaining this will ever give any clarity for this. The Texans traded for David Johnson, and they also got a second, and they swapped their fourth. Arizona got, well, obviously the second half was swapping the fourth, DeAndre Hopkins. So let me get this straight. Yeah, give him a round of applause. So you not only took a player who was, I think, older than Hopkins. I could be wrong with that, but I think he's around the same age.
He's 31.
He is?
I think so.
So, older.
Golden rule, never spend money on a running back over 30. There's never paid off, ever.
Well, let's also keep in mind the fact, David Johnson, he's been injured for 2 years and was severely unproductive the other year. So the last 3 years, he hasn't done anything. And he's still got 2 more years on that bad contract with Arizona. So they took a worse player and a worse contract to dump off a better player. You want to give some clarity on why that... I think everybody should understand why that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting because Arizona was trying to dump Johnson anyway. They traded for Kenyon Drake the previous offseason.
Yeah.
In the middle of the year, they traded for Drake.
Who had an upswing with Arizona when he came there.
Johnson wasn't cutting it.
He's injured the whole year.
He's been hurt the past 2 years. He broke his wrist in 2017.
2018, he was just terrible.
Okay. Well, still, they were trying to get rid of him anyway. So
yeah.
Plus, Bill O'Brien and DeAndre Hopkins did not have a great relationship anyway.
Yeah, and that's what I was really curious about because I was hearing things, and you told me something. They had a lot of issues with, each other. Especially because when I read this one thing, and it made me feel sick to my stomach when I saw this on, I think it was Get Up with Michael Irvin. He was on the phone with DeAndre Hopkins, and he told him that Bill O'Brien compared him to Aaron Hernandez. I'm no coach, okay? I'm no head coach. I'm only 18. But even I have the sense to not compare what is basically your second best player on the entire team to a murderer. Like, that's just basic common sense. I could see why DeAndre Hopkins wanted out and wanted to be traded. Because that's cold. You know that's cold.
Oh, 100%.
And it makes Bill O'Brien look so bad for saying things like that. I mean, if it wasn't that or the Clowney thing, or when he cursed at a fan at the divisional game against the Chiefs, it's just a bunch of other questionable, bad decisions. And for a long time, I was willing to let the guy off, but after seeing this last year, this proves he is a bad head coach and definitely deserves to be fired.
Who's gonna fire him? Himself? He's his own boss. He's the
That's
GM.
True.
He's the head coach and the
I
GM.
forgot about that.
So of all the coaches,
The owner could
there
fire
are
him.
only like 4 or 5 guys.
The owner
in the
could
whole,
fire him.
Like all the head coaches in the league, there's only 4 or 5 coaches that I would say are worse candidates to be a GM than him.
Yeah.
So never mind the fact that he already has to come up with all the plays and the playbook and all of the coaching decisions. He now has added responsibility.
Quote unquote coaching decisions, but yeah.
I didn't say that you
You were right. You are right with that.
So, on top of the decisions he has to make for games, he also has to make all the executive decisions.
Yeah.
So he has to make all the trades, all the contracts, all the other decisions, which no one person should have the sole responsibility over.
No. We saw a great example of trying to do 2 things at once. Freddie Kitchens was a great example of that. When he was the offensive coordinator and the head coach at the same time for like the first 7 games of the season. It was a disaster. The Browns looked like a mess. Their offense, which was supposed to be high-powered, was a mess. But this isn't about the Browns. This is about the Texans. But it's just saying, like, when you try to force yourself, and all this was a power struggle. That's all it was. And it set example for everybody in the locker room. But for everybody saying, oh, Texans are better off without D. Hopkins. I don't think anybody would say that, but let's say someone did. No. Let's clarify the fact now, they don't have a number 1. Going into that year, they had Kenny Stills and Will Fuller. Kenny Stills has been a career number 2, sometimes number 3, with Miami and the Saints. Will Fuller, great player, great build, great deep routes. One of my favorite players to watch run deep routes. But he's been injured more times than can count. The guy's off the field almost as much as on the field, which is not a good look.
He gets paid to be in the blue tent.
Very true. And they decided to add to it with like a 3-year deal with Randall Cobb.
Brandon Cooks.
Oh yeah, and trading the Rams for Brandon Cooks. Now, I want to get into each decision because these are terrible. With Randall Cobb, I don't understand why you did this. I don't understand why they would do this. Because unless you're cutting Kenny Stills or Will Fuller, Randall Cobb makes no sense for the fact that he's had one productive year as a number 1, which was like 2016. And that was more so that he had Devontae Adams developing behind him because Jordy Nelson got injured. It was the only year Randall Cobb really showed a big year. And with like the last year or 2 with the Packers and the year with Dallas, he's been horribly unimpressive. So this move, it's a waste of money and it's a waste of a spot on our roster personally, especially on a spot with so many wide receivers. But Brandon Cooks, this is the worst one. This is worse than Randall Cobb because people consistently think he is a number 1. And I think you know more than anything he's not.
No, he just can't. He can't get the separation.
He's never been a guy for separation, and it showed. It's why he's been. This is the 4th team he's been on, and people think he's a number 1. This is the 4th team now. You know that, right?
Oh yeah.
He's been with the Saints, the Patriots, the Rams, and now the Texans. let that sink in. The Saints, the Patriots, and the Rams. 3 consistently well-managed, well-run organizations. None of them wanted to keep Cooks for more than 1 or 2 years. That is a terrible sign for a guy that is going to be expected to be the number 1. And if I'm Deshaun Watson, I would be mad. I would want out, personally. I would want to see if New England would want me, personally. I don't care much.
They're still looking for a quarterback.
Oh, that's true. And, that was something else I wanted to talk to you about. This is one. I was seriously thinking New England was going to go in the draft, and the first thing that they wanted to fix was quarterback. Because we all know Tom Brady's gone. The league says hallelujah all in unison. It goes to
AFC. Thank God he's gone.
Even pretty much everybody's just glad he's gone. But he went to the Bucs, and everybody thought right off the gate, all right, they're either going to sign a quarterback or draft a quarterback. We're about 4 months from the season, and they could still sign somebody, but when articles came out that they showed no interest in Newton, and now Winston's gone, who are they going to use? Right now, their quarterbacks, I know both of them off the top of my head. They signed Brian Hoyer, who has been a career journeyman and backup, and Jarrett Stidham, a 3rd-round pick from Auburn, on New England. And I'm thinking, this cannot be their plan. Unless their plan is seriously tank for Trevor Lawrence. And I've never seen this in my life, and I don't think I would ever see this for a while for New England. Tanking. Would you think they're going to tank next year?
I mean, it's going to be hard to tank with as good a defense as they have. Because they still have their entire secondary is still there. I know they lost a couple linebackers. I think they lost a
They lost Jamie Collins. They lost Danny Shelton. They lost Landon Roberts.
But for the most part, their defense is solid. Their running backs are there. Their line is good. They don't have a quarterback, and they don't have receivers.
But that's a big problem.
Yes. So they didn't go get either. I don't understand.
Yeah.
They traded. They had, I think, 9 picks coming into the draft.
They had about 9, yeah.
They traded out of 8 of those.
What?
Their original draft positions.
They traded 8 of them.
They traded 8 of them for various reasons. They traded out of the 1st round when Jordan Love was on the board, which I think would be a better fit.
I honestly believe that's where I thought he was going to go, and they traded out, and I was sitting there like, okay, maybe they're going to get Jacob Eason or Jalen Hurts, and they're probably going to tank and play bad, but it's a rebuilding year most likely. And then they go, and after leaving the draft, and seeing no one, Jake Fromm, Jacob Eason, James Morgan, Jalen Hurts, nobody went to New England. And if you're a Bills, Jets, or Dolphins fan, you're probably ecstatic about it. But as an outsider, you're looking at it and you're probably scratching your head like, is Bill Belichick okay? This is never like him to just... It looks like they're just going to throw the flag up and just let it happen. Especially because this was the year, in my opinion, for taking a quarterback. I'm looking at next year's draft class and say for, like, Trevor Lawrence and, like, people were saying Justin Fields maybe. And neither of those two horribly impressed me.
Neither one of the two's going to make it out of the top 5.
Well, one will if a team falls to number 1. If teams like New England or Jacksonville fall to 1, they'll probably take him.
No, like, they're both going to be in the top 5 picks. Like,
yeah.
There are perennially 2 quarterbacks a year in the top 5.
Around that, yeah.
Because the bottom of the league always needs quarterback. Whether it's Jacksonville will pick one of them. Somebody like...
If New England falls far enough, they might.
Somebody like I could see a...
Pittsburgh.
I don't know about that, but I could see somebody who's old quarterback trying to just rush in a new era. So maybe a Saints, but they're not going to fall that far. But
Saints took a quarterback, though.
Did they?
Tommy Stevens from Mississippi State.
Okay, well, they're set in QB, but maybe the
And
Bears.
for some reason signed Winston.
I've seen
Bears. You saw my video.
Yeah.
Bears should have definitely taken a quarterback.
So
That's another team.
Justin Fields, I could see him going to somewhere like Chicago.
And next year, when looking at the college year, I'll definitely be taking a deep dive into players like Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields, where they might end up and how next year looks. Because it's too early to say for what they could have a Joe Burrow style year and turn it around. But I think there were two more things I wanted to talk about. Before we get to the big thing that we were going to talk about, I was curious about this. Because after looking at it, when I saw that they franchise tagged Derrick Henry, do you think the Titans made the right decision? Because big questions have always been coming around paying, because two teams did two different options. With Tennessee, they franchise tagged Derrick Henry. And when Christian McCaffrey had one of the best years ever, they gave him a 4-year, $64 million deal. And I sat there like, whoa, that's a lot of money for a long time. I mean, Christian McCaffrey's young. He's only 24, 25, I think.
24, I think.
Do you think that was a good decision?
I love the McCaffrey decision.
Really?
I think that was one of the best moves of the offseason. Because you think about it from Panthers' standpoint, they don't have a quarterback. They really have, I mean, DJ Moore.
They have a quarterback.
Kyle Allen is not.
They don't have him.
Who did they take?
He signed Teddy Bridgewater for 3 years.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
So they do have a quarterback.
So,
it's just a question of will he play good.
So he's not getting paid very much. Their wide receivers are all really young. They're not getting paid much. So
they got one. They have Robbie Anderson.
They didn't pay him a whole lot though.
Oh, that's true. You know, you're right. I think
So,
they didn't pay him about
not only do you
you
have a big bankroll. You came in with a lot of free cap space anyway because you dumped Kuechly, who shocking retirement.
That caught me so off guard. When I saw the video, I got a little emotional.
But to lock down what I've always loved him, even in college. I watched him in college. He used to tear up, especially Ohio State with the championship caliber defense they have every year. He ran for like 250 yards. Yeah. So I loved him being drafted. He was a guy I wanted to see. I wanted to see where he ended up, and the fact that he has shined since he came into the league.
It took a year or two to get him off the ground because I think he was behind Jonathan Stewart when he was with Carolina. With the 2 or 3 years they were insane.
But he is the offense of the Panthers. He will likely still be the primary point of the offense next year. So I love that decision.
I think it's just because
lock him down, because if you tag him and he goes off again, he's going to want more.
Yeah.
So the fact that they went out and they got their guy and they locked him down, I love that decision. I don't love that they tagged Henry though.
Really?
I would prefer you tag Tannehill and then you sign Henry.
I think
because Henry's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
He is a beast. He's giant. Giant doesn't go away with age. Like, I could see if you had a really small, fast guy, that the speed could kind of, as you've seen, running backs.
Power backs have had, though, some issues. And it's just not just power backs. It's just overall running backs who get a lot of touches. And Derrick Henry almost doubled the amount of touches from last year to this year. He had around 350 or something insane. And I think that's what I think that's why I personally think it's a good decision, because with a player like that, regardless of how well he continues to play in the future, and the overall trend of running backs, when you overpay them, it just does not look overall good. It's been shown with the past couple of years. We already talked about David Johnson, and when he got that big extension after the career year Cardinals had in 2015, he's been injured and unproductive. It happened with Freeman from Atlanta, who was a huge part of that insane offense with Julio that year. He got extended.
Happened with Todd Gurley too.
I'll get into Todd Gurley in a second, but with Freeman, he fell unproductive and Falcons cut him. Definitely with Gurley's, in my opinion, reminds me a bit of Derrick Henry because they're both built. And I know Derrick Henry is a different breed of his own. He's so much bigger than Gurley.
He's a linebacker.
He's basically a linebacker running back. But Todd Gurley was one of those strong power backs like David Johnson, like Derrick Henry. Got a lot of touches, especially in the years when the Rams went so far. And then the arthritis kicked in, the injuries kicked in, and the contract turned into an albatross. And they had to cut him. And they still owe him money, by the way, which is something I just wanted to bring up. And the biggest, I think the worst example was Le'Veon. Left the Steelers for the year, and got about, I forget, it was like $54 million for 4 years or something like that. Or something. It was something really big. It was over $12 or $13 million a year for a player like him, who didn't play at all in 2018. Just skipped out on the team. Has been known to have attitude issues, and overall been kind of a greedy player.
Had the same amount of rushing touchdowns as Tom Brady.
Did he actually?
6.
Yeah, and that shows.
So.
And too many times I saw him regularly go backwards on plays. So that contract's going to look ugly. It's another thing for the Jets, but we all used to that.
Yeah, he doesn't have an offensive line, but that's still not an excuse for making that much money. I'm not saying with Derrick Henry, I'm not saying you make him the highest paid running back in history.
No.
Like, I'm not asking for that, but I'm saying if you had to overpay one of the two, I would say overpay Henry, because Tannehill already had an ACL injury. He came back from it. Well, that's what got him out of Miami. He tore his ACL in training camp. 2017 maybe? 2018?
Oh, yeah, because that's when they brought in Jay Cutler or something
Cutler
every year.
So,
I do remember that. I forgot about that.
He comes back and...
post a forgettable year of, I think it was 7-9 with Miami, and then they decided to move on.
Yeah, then he left, and he went to Tennessee behind Marcus Mariota, who is now backup. But,
yeah. I don't think any of us saw that coming.
So, even so, they split reps all year. Tannehill comes in back half of the year. He takes a team He
came in around week 7. They were 2-4, and it showed when Mariota played ugly against Broncos and Joe Flacco, which I was just sitting there thinking, what are the Titans doing? And I thought they're like, are they really bad this year? It's like they look like they have a team. And yeah, Tannehill came in and
he threw to A.J. Brown. He handed off to Derrick Henry, and all of a sudden he's paid like a top 10 quarterback.
It's more than that.
He didn't have a great year. He had a decent year. He had a better year he had a good enough year to win comeback player of the year.
There's only 2 other quarterbacks paid higher than Tannehill right now. And that's Stafford with the $30 million, and Russell Wilson with $31 million a year. And both those players, in my opinion, personally deserved the money. Ryan Tannehill, I felt like it was a bit quick for that decision, but the problem was they kind of had to, in a sense, because he might have gotten franchise tag, but at the same time, teams definitely would have been throwing money at him instantly.
I mean, a franchise tag, that averages the top 5 player, the average salary for the top 5 highest players at the position, right?
Yeah.
So, and then you get that. That's your salary for the year.
Yeah.
So why would you pay him that for, 4 years? And then if he...
It was $118 million for 4 years.
My opinion, he flunks next year, and he's not gonna post. They're not gonna have a losing record. They'll probably still be back in the playoffs, especially in a weak AFC South.
Yeah.
For a guy that, my opinion, is not the future of the Titans, I just don't know why you give him that kind of money. It just reminds me of the Joe Flacco contract.
What do you mean?
After the Super Bowl, he had a really good year, just like Tannehill. Didn't quite make it to the Super Bowl, but he had a solid year, shattering expectations. Coming in, beating 2 heavyweights in the playoffs, and then coming in almost beating the Chiefs. Paying him a bunch of money, and for a long time, and Joe Flacco, after he won the Super Bowl, he got paid big.
I do remember that.
Then he really
never really came back.
He had a lousy year. Well, he had an average year, and then he got hurt, and then it was never the same.
Yeah.
And now you see him; he's a journeyman. He's had a really good career, but after he gets paid, I'm just not sure he was worth the investment because he sank Baltimore for years. They had no cap space.
Yeah, and considering that the best kind of play he had after the Super Bowl was like just average, and I know it's hard to say that because you're a Baltimore fan, and Joe Flacco, people couldn't imagine the franchise without him for a while because, well, obviously he won the Super Bowl, but when you look deeper into it, it was more defense and overall strength of the team.
I mean, don't get me wrong. He had an unbelievable postseason. Like, his postseason numbers were unparalleled. Other than Joe Montana. Like, he had the best quarterback, or best touchdown to interception ratio in, really, I think it was either NFL history or only Joe Montana.
Yeah.
It's like 16-0 touchdown to interception in that postseason. So, I mean, his defense was great, but
he did play good.
He was good, but what I want to compare to it is, I mean, it's not the style of play. Like, Tannehill's obviously more mobile.
Yeah.
But it's kind of the way that Tannehill got paid, like the amount of money he got. The Titans can't go get a future quarterback. I mean, unless you're the Eagles, but they're not going to go get a quarterback for a while. So if he ends up to be a bust,
then that's going to sink them.
They're going to be like in trouble in 2 years, 3 years down the road. So while it may seem like a good decision right now, think about it 2022, 23, when if the Colts decide to rise up, or Jaguars or Texans, they're going to be in trouble.
I guess that's true. And I guess with running backs, I guess if you pay them and they flame out, if you get rid of them, I guess it's only really going to be a hindrance for like maybe a year, maybe two. I guess if like instead of like paying a quarterback, because most of the time quarterbacks get long-term deals if they flame out.
Well, running backs don't usually get more than 3-year deals.
And that's true. I guess I forgot about that.
It's really stupid to give a running back a deal longer than 3 years, especially.
Which is why David Johnson's questioning me. He got like 5 years.
Yeah, it's not realistic.
6. He's still got 2 more years with the Texans. Good luck.
Oof, it's gonna be an interesting team to watch.
That'll be hilarious to watch. But I think we gotta end it up with one more thing. Now, obviously the past overall total of an hour between my first one and now, I really only have football, and that's because of just some beautiful things going on in the world. We all that I can't say for reasons of YouTube will hit me with the glorious ban hammer. But you all know what it is. But with that, the big question was, well, because NBA suspended and NHL suspended, they're probably just going to go up in the summer, finish the year, and go to playoffs. But what about the sport that was supposed to start now? Yeah, it was supposed to start a couple days ago, right?
March 26th.
Yeah, the MLB, the major leagues, that already are going through a lot as it is, with people having credibility issues after the Astros. The big question was, what was going to happen this year? But before we even got to find out, everything got shut down. Now the big question is, how were they planning to do it? And this was the biggest reason I brought you along, because you gave me this idea, and I was curious to see what you were going to find out about it.
So I've heard 3 or 4 different potential plans on how baseball is going to resume.
Yeah.
As a fan of all sports,
yeah,
I really want anything at this point.
That's so true.
I would take golf right now.
I wouldn't go that far.
I would take golf at this point. Like, it's something.
You're
to
not
watch.
wrong.
So, but the baseball it brings the most like promise to me, because
Yeah.
Unlike basketball and hockey are they're one and the same. They are both. They use the same venues. They use the same facilities. They're gonna come back together.
Yeah.
And their NBA commissioner is just. I mean, he doesn't. I mean, from what he's talked about, it just doesn't seem like he's very motivated to get it.
It's also the fact they're not as much worried about their years because when this happened, they were each heading into the closing stretch of their year. If they wanted, it wouldn't be a good look, but if they wanted, they could just end the year, whoever's left, go to the playoffs. And that could seriously screw some teams over, but the option's there if it gets desperate enough to that point. I don't think it will, but they at least have an option. The MLB can't even do that because they didn't even get their feet off the ground. They didn't even get a chance to start yet. So,
but
what was
the advantage they have? The MLB has. I mean, they play spring training.
Oh, that's true.
So they play in Arizona, Florida, and then those are the two major spring training facilities. Every team has a facility,
and there's
completely separate. So it would be near impossible to get a team in New York. So the Yankees and the Mets, Red Sox, the state of their cities is really, really frightening.
Yeah.
So they're not going to be up anytime soon.
LA, stuff like that, yeah.
So the only way to get baseball back is to go to Florida and to go to like spring training facilities, and then even I've heard Texas bringing in a couple like Astros Stadium,
yeah,
Rangers Stadium, and then bring in some minor leagues. So
and
then obviously you're gonna have to do empty
without
stadiums
crowds, yeah.
for a while, but
that was where I had an issue with that, and I brought this point to you because you could get away with that probably if you're the MLB. With no matter where you are, your area is probably gonna broadcast it to your individual state. So for like Texas, depending on where you are, you might get Rangers or Astros or both. But if you're MLB, it's not that much of an issue. But take it a step down. Think like AAA, AA, stuff like that, where you're pretty much relying on ticket revenue and people buying stuff from the stadium to keep those kind of areas afloat. Would that kind of like make it more of a problem?
So.
Wait, hold up. Time out, guys. I've got issues with the phone.
Just edit this.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna edit this bit out. Boy, that'll be fun editing out. You know, I might just leave it in just because. I might just leave it in. Welcome back to Interruptions.
So, where was that?
The biggest question we were going to ask was if, so say they start back up and they start with empty stadiums, what's AAA and everything lower going to do? Can they even play games? Because if they do, their stadiums are going to tank hard because of no revenue, no TV sponsorships, none of that.
So, I know that they cut 40 minor league teams. Like they're gone for the year, at least for the year.
Yeah.
I think it's Class A Advanced.
I would say it's probably either Class A or Class A Advanced because they probably they can't do that with AA or AAA yet.
But
I'd say yeah, but
I don't know what the proportion is, but not having fans for a smaller ballpark is really, it saves money, and it also costs you a lot. I mean, it obviously costs ticket sales and merchandise sales. Merchandise will probably not take a big hit.
probably not because you can still order it online.
Yeah, so they're going to ramp up online, and then you don't have any kind of concessions, or you don't have to pay any cleaning staff or anything like that.
I guess that's true.
So I think that they're going to play some games. I think they're going to have a short schedule.
Yeah, they're probably gonna have to.
And they already have a short schedule, but
they go till about August, right? Regularly. Something
early
like that?
September. Oh yeah, late August, early September, something like that.
So they're probably gonna have to push it back to like, I wouldn't say All-Star break, but I'd say right around the start of August.
Yeah, and it's really that's the up in the air part is we really don't know what's gonna happen regarding it. But I know that baseball, as soon as it's possible, they're gonna do it because there's so much money to be made, and whoever wins the race per se between all the major sports is gonna make a fortune.
Oh yeah, no.
The NFL draft was the highest it's ever been rated.
Oh yeah.
Because people got nothing to do, nothing to watch. So
anything that starts up, they're definitely gonna make it. So if the MLB finds a way to start it up,
because
as much as the credibility issues they have, they'll probably definitely recover from it with all the.
I mean, I could even see it's possible. I know the teams get a cut of the. They get a cut of the viewership. So
yeah.
You know how that system works, right?
A little bit.
So the Fox, NBC, they get
all those
ratings, and that's how they make their money.
Yeah.
So they also sign deals, sponsorships
with the teams,
with major league teams, and like Masson, Mid-Atlantic Sports Network.
That does the
they
cover
the Orioles
Baltimore
and the Nationals.
And Nats, yeah.
They just re-signed their sponsorship.
Yeah.
So the Nationals get money for the broadcast.
Of course.
Based on viewership and just there's a flat fee. But, so they're still gonna make money, but and I could see like they're just gonna want to get it out because if they win the race, which I think they will,
they probably will. The other two teams want to wait till summer.
Viewership ratings are gonna be spectacular.
Through the roof.
They're gonna be spectacular. Even people, I know a lot of people have hang-ups with baseball
right now.
With the pace of play and just it's not incredibly entertaining.
Well, and what's happened recently, but
I beg to do. Well, I think that makes it more exciting.
Astros.
Yeah, I think that makes it more exciting. I want to see them, but
yeah.
I think that you're going to find that more just general sports fans are missing sports, so they're going to.
And they'll want to come back, and you definitely bring up a good point there, which is why we're going to wrap it up with some prediction. Because as of right now, we're going to do the predictions basically solely upon the idea if the league starts and they keep the divisions the same. We have no idea what divisions are, but if we keep them the same, that's where we're going to do them. If it changes, I'll definitely call them back and do our predictions again. But I think as of right now, I think this is the best idea to start off with. So right off the gate, we're going to start off with the American League East. What are you thinking?
So it's definitely a two-horse race. The Red Sox window is gone.
Red Sox are done.
They lost their two biggest pieces. Blue Jays are still
a year or two apart.
Two years away. The Orioles are not competitive.
I'll be dead before they probably make the playoffs. Let's be honest here. But
they're a long way away. And even so, they
until Peter Angelos dies.
I actually thought the Orioles were going to win enough to not get to 100 losses, and then unfortunately the diagnosis of Trey Mancini, their best player, if he ever comes back, it won't be this year.
Yeah, it won't be this year. If you don't know, Trey Mancini has cancer. Sending prayers out for him today.
Stage 3 colon cancer is not looking good, but he has everything he said has been good. His recovery, so to this point, he's about a month in.
He'll still probably.
Looks like he's doing pretty
it's probably going to be a situation like Carlos Carrasco, who had leukemia, right? He'll probably end up missing, guaranteed the whole year.
He might miss
part of next year, yeah, because it's more severe. But so you're saying Yankees?
I would say Yankees are probably just by the Garrett Cole is he's gonna win some games for them just solely based on his performances.
Oh yeah, no.
And then their offense is
high powered. Yeah.
If Giancarlo Stanton stays
consistent,
if he stays healthy, they get the number 1 seed, no questions asked.
I think for me it's because there's a lot of questions. They've had so many injuries. Judge is still going to be injured for a while. Giancarlo has been injured and had consistency issues. that makes, in my opinion, a bit of a hole in the outfield, where Brett Gardner and Cameron Maven and Aaron Hicks, besides Maven, who was really good with the bat, the other two were okay. And they took massive pitching hits. Well, the fact their pitching is not that great to begin with.
They lost Severino.
Severino's out for the year. Paxton's going to miss a good part of the year.
They still have the best bullpen. Even I know they lost Dylan Matanzas. They still have one of the best bullpens.
No, they still have one of the best bullpens.
So,
but I think for me, I want to give it, and it's going to sound crazy, I'm going to give it the Rays. I think they're going to bear it. It's going to be very close in that division. I think they're going to edge it out with like maybe 103 wins or something like that. Because the offensive talent on that team is amazing. It's all young. It's all really strong. And then you look at the pitching lineup, which is all there, and if it stays healthy, with Charlie Morton, Blake Snell, Yanni Chirinos, Tyler Glasnow, and honestly, towards the end of the year, Ryan Yarbrough started to pick it up. Right around the end of the year, Ryan Yarbrough picked up pace at the end of the year because I had him on fantasy. I think if that five play relatively consistent and stay relatively healthy, along with a solid enough bullpen, I think they're gonna edge it out.
See,
but
I do get
what you're saying.
I can't, even with it, if they lose Giancarlo or Judge, as long as they don't lose them both. Yeah. I just can't imagine the starting pitching for the Yankees isn't great, but it doesn't have to be. Like
That's true.
With the amount of run production they put up,
and good bullpen.
Like if you're going to put up 5 or 6 runs a game, you
it
don't need
matter,
to have a great starting pitcher. You don't need to.
You just need like 5 or 6 innings.
You don't need to hold the opponents to 3 runs when you score 6.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they still have Gleyber Torres, who's breakout year.
They got Urshela still.
The Andahar, right?
I think they got rid of him.
Did they get rid of him?
I forget. I'll already look at that.
Still, they still have one of the best lineups in baseball.
Yeah, I'll give you that. That'll definitely be interesting. What if we got the definitely not the most unfair division, called the AL Central, where, let's be honest, there's really only one team, and we both know what it is. It's the Twins, because Royals, they're going to be rebuilding for a couple more years, for a lot of years until they get some pitching. Tigers, be prepared for another
100 losses.
Yes, no more than that. Be prepared to see potentially another 2003 Tigers year.
No lineup.
It's really bad, and
the fact that Miguel Cabrera is still the best hitter in that lineup is a problem.
And he only averages like maybe 15 home runs a year now.
I mean, he's still pretty good, and he's walking inner circle Hall of Famer, but his
power's gone.
He is not he's not the all-star of that lineup. He shouldn't be. Well,
I don't see an all-star on that lineup besides him. But Cleveland, I'd say for this year their door is closed. I don't want to close the door entirely on them because they still have a lot of really good young talent. It's gonna matter if they can find some way to keep Lindor. If they do, they might have that tiny crack in the door to maybe have a small chance of keeping pace with the Twins, especially with Shane Bieber and Mike Clevinger, but I don't see it unless they keep him. And White Sox, I don't know.
Don't sleep on White Sox.
I'm not going to, but I don't see them beating the Twins out.
I'm not saying they win the division.
No, I'm saying,
but they're definitely a dark horse.
Yeah, they definitely.
But they had the best offseason in baseball.
All the Twins have to do is not implode, and they win that division, basically.
That is true.
And it's the same with the West. Let's be real here. If people are hyping up the Angels, stop. You're basically creating the Browns of baseball. Everyone got all hyped up. Oh, we got Mike Trout and Anthony Rendon. We're going to be so good. Let's also forget the fact, besides those two, like Andrelton Simmons, it's not a whole lot on that team.
Not enough to compete.
Especially in the pitching department, where, unfortunately, their best pitcher is...
Griffin Canning.
I was going to say passed away, but...
Griffin Canning is the ace in that squad.
The best pitcher was Tyler Skaggs before he passed away, which was...
Unfortunate.
Rest in peace, that man's soul. But in terms of looking at the rest of the division, Texas, no. they're going to be around 500 again. Mariners, they're going to be awful. And Oakland, I want to have faith in Oakland, but the fact is they're like the Rays, only they're more frustrating to watch.
They don't have the pitching.
They don't have the salary. Those two teams have the lowest salary in baseball. It shows why they've been stuck in bad stadiums.
They're not the money ball.
And rely on drafting all the time.
They are not the money ball.
They're not the money ball anymore. That's
they do have a really potent lineup when they're on. It's just their problem is they all have streaky hits. Like I know all
like Romel Laureano, Matt Olson, Matt Chapman, Simeon,
Chris Davis.
Definitely Chris Davis. Steven Piscotty. Yeah, they're all really streaky.
I get that all hitters are naturally streaky, but it feels like this team is all streaky at the same time.
Save for Chapman, I'd say.
They're all at the same. They're all either hot or cold. It's not like a.
I think the only person who's not like that is Matt Chapman. I'd say he's insane.
He's another level, but just that lineup has the ability. That team could win. That team has the ability to win 100 games or lose, or they could
lose like
they could
80.
win. They could go below 500, or they could win 100 games. It's just it's
too
really
hard
a
to say.
toss-up for that team.
What's going to desperately need is their pitching. Sean Manaea is still there, and him coming back will be a key factor, and Frankie Montez not being stupid. Yeah, don't get suspended 80 more games, please. But
they don't have the bullpen either. They lost
that's true.
Blake Trinan.
Blake Trinan's gone.
He was the closer. They don't have a closer.
They do.
Who's it?
It's Liam Hendricks now. He's alright. But I think it's just going to matter of what happens with them. So, in terms of wild cards, I think it's probably going to be New York and Oakland in their respective bouts, because I don't see anybody in Central, and no one on the other sides will probably keep up.
I see Tampa Bay and Chicago White Sox.
Really?
I see the White Sox getting it.
Chicago?
If you look at that lineup they built, they got Grandal. Arguably, he's the best catcher in the American League right now. He was in the National League. He couldn't.
I guess that's true.
Offensively, I mean, I'm not talking about defense, but from a power bat.
Oh yeah, in terms of power bat, he's definitely one.
Eloy Jimenez is a beast.
Eloy definitely.
Tim Anderson is not to be messed with. He led the majors in batting.
I forgot they also have a potential ace in what's his name, Giolito.
Giolito's good.
Yeah, he's really good.
They got Dallas Keuchel.
Encarnacion
is not a pitcher. He's their DH, but Encarnacion is
not to be messed with.
He's another power hitter. That's a team that I could realistically see winning 85, 90 games. Especially, they got to play the Royals and the Tigers. 19 or 17 games.
I think it's 19.
Provided that there's not a shortened season.
Yeah. I'll give you that. That's not a bad prediction.
I think it's just a matter of can they live up to that potential.
It's pretty obvious. You look. There's only about 4 or 5 teams that are like really good, and the rest are gonna be pretty hard to watch.
I mean, if you look at it in a normal scenario, trying to give a team a bubble team 90 wins is probably not a great prediction.
Yeah.
But in the American League, anything is possible, honestly.
That's true.
You could have the entire playoff field get over 100 wins, and I don't think anybody would be surprised.
No.
Because the
they
quality of that... There's
really... last year, right?
Almost.
Was the Twins
Cleveland didn't.
No, I meant like the top few, like Twins, Yankees, Astros all had 100 wins, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think they all did. But just the quality of the American League, you either have the juggernauts, and we all know who they are, and you also have the cellar, who are, out of the whole league,
they're going to be bad.
Like I would say 2 or 3 of the bottom 4 teams are in the American League. So the fact that they all have to play,
makes
they all
it a
have to play
dumpster fire.
The juggernauts. I mean, it just
makes it dumpster fire.
Yeah. So you're not going to have a whole lot of teams that are hovering around 500.
I get that. So that's why I did that first. So going into the National League is where things get interesting.
That's a competitive. That's
definitely
the more competitive.
So let's kick it off with the NL East. And for you?
This one's tough. I don't. The Marlins are not there. they've got some good prospects and they've got a good farm system.
But that's like that every year, though.
My opinion, the most competitive division in baseball, bar none. I mean, you got four
Central,
teams.
But I don't know.
I mean, you got 3 teams, 4 teams that could be over 500. I don't see that happening, but it's possible. No. I don't see. I know you're a Phillies fan. So.
Yeah, let's just clarify before I die on the inside. I am a Phillies fan. I live in Maryland. It's a fun bullying session here.
We got your Nats hat. So it's okay. We got your World Series champion hat.
I went to the Nats parade. I saw all of it happen, but yeah, I'll answer this one. I was watching the Phillies. You constantly want to think back to 2012 when they were actually a good team to watch, in 2011 when they had the god tier pitching. Since then, it's been 7 years since they've had a record over 500.
That's not happening.
This was their best year, and they finished 500. I think that should sum up. And they spent $400 million this year. Let's keep that in check. But no, I wasn't impressed with a lot of things they did off season. Zach Wheeler's nice, but the fact is that's all they did. Eiflin and Arrieta still have massive consistency issues. And if it happens again with Arrieta, that contract's just going to look like an albatross at this point. 5 spots still a dumpster fire on the team. And bullpen's just shaky as it usually is, and mixed with a shaky offense. It's gonna be an 8th straight year of under 500. I'm just gonna say that now. That's gonna be my biggest hot take today.
Yeah, my not so bold prediction. The streak does not end this year.
Nah, I guarantee.
The Mets made some adjustments, but I still don't buy in on that list.
I don't buy in on them at all.
They're not going to win the division.
I
mean, I get people are saying they made some offensive adjustments. They've got one of the best rotations in baseball, but unfortunately they lost Noah Syndergaard. He's mid Tommy John. He is not coming back this year.
This is the fact he doesn't want to come back.
But even so, Pete Alonso, I get, is breakout superstar. He's coming.
Jeff McNeil will be there as well.
J.D. Davis is pretty good too. And they've got some pieces, but they are not a NL East winning team, in my opinion.
Mixed with the fact that they're run like a clown show. It showed with Mickey Callaway last year, and then they hired Carlos Beltran, who got fired within a month.
You still gets paid.
It's true. That's the decision making the Mets do. And as much as I'm not trying to be a homer here, but as much as I personally think my team's still going to be bad, I think we'll finish 3rd over them because the Mets are run so poorly. No amount of talent can get them out of the bad decision making the top of their team runs.
So you are loosely comparing them to the Browns of baseball.
No, I'm comparing them to the Knicks of baseball. They're run like clown shows, both of those organizations.
The Browns are too. They have a loaded roster. No reason they shouldn't be in the playoffs, but their ownership is not great. Anyway, back to baseball.
True.
As much as it hurts me to say,
what are you saying?
I cannot see the Braves not winning this division.
Think the Braves?
The Nats will definitely make the playoffs, and they have the best rotation in baseball.
I agree with that one.
They're a huge hole at third base. You can't replace Rendon.
I think that's definitely going to be an issue this year.
The problem they're going to have is Trey Turner's a beast.
They've got plenty of offensive talent, basically.
They have offensive talent, but they don't have the lineup they had last year. And all their players are now, the oldest lineup in baseball is a year older.
It was the oldest lineup in baseball?
Yeah. Not even close. They had their average, I think, was over 30. So that lineup, all it did was get older. Howie Kendrick can't play every day. Ryan Zimmerman maybe starts 80 games. I doubt it, but it's possible. So not only are you going to have to trust Carter Kieboom, who, I mean, I personally, as a Nats fan,
or Wemo Defo,
I don't buy into Carter. I mean, I could be wrong.
I'm not impressed with him.
Come back to this video in 6 months, he could be
an all-star.
But I mean, you obviously have Juan Soto, and that's amazing. I love that.
Yeah, the offensive talent that they got is still there.
Eric Thames is
an
arguably
interesting
the
guy.
strongest man in baseball. Like, he is huge.
His arm looks like my head. It's insane.
But I just don't see them matching the offensive weaponry of Atlanta.
I think the reason I said the Nats here, and I think my overall reasoning behind it is the pitching. The Nats' offense may not look great, but if they're pitching, which, let me keep you in mind here, it's Max Scherzer, Steven Strasburg, Patrick Corbin, I think Anibal Sanchez is still there, right? Yeah, Anibal Sanchez, and then probably a duel, and they'll probably just switch between Joe Ross and Austin Voth, both of which very promising. So, in terms of overall structure of that lineup, it's probably the best in baseball. It is definitely the best in baseball. And honestly, one of the best all time. I'd say it could go with the 2011 Phillies and the 2013 Tigers. It's that good.
Forget the 90s Braves.
And the 90s Braves. It genuinely matches up to that level. And yeah, offense it may be missing, especially with Rendon gone. But if your pitching can consistently get you 7 innings and only give up maybe 1 or 2 runs, you don't need a ton of offense, especially with the players that are still there and that still can produce. Trey Turner, Howie Kendrick's got a clutch bat. Suzuki still hits bombs.
Yeah.
Juan Soto's a god. Victor Robles is on the way up. There's a lot of offensive talent there that can easily get them 4 or 5 runs a game if things go right.
Yeah, I'm not worried. I mean, I've been a Nats fan forever.
Yeah.
But, so I have lived through the
frustrations.
The wood shack that we call a bullpen.
But I'd say it got better.
It got better, yes, but the front end of that bullpen still I don't trust.
But if your team can get you 7, think about it like this.
But I'm not. It's my reasoning here, and I don't know why I'm arguing against my team, but I am just solely based on. I'm not worried about. Say you have a 10-game stretch that'll give each starter 2 starts.
Yeah.
So, you would think, ideal world, that 8 of those starts, you get what you're
probably
talking about.
7.
The 7 innings, 1 or 2 runs. But the problem is, this isn't an ideal scenario. Like, baseball is designed to be a game of failure.
Yeah.
So, you play teams like the Dodgers, and we're going to play the AL West, so you would play
the Astros,
the
Angels,
the
who
A's,
could potentially do
and
things, stuff
then
like that.
you have to play the Mets, the Phillies, and the Braves.
Yeah.
And I'm not worried about the
like tiring
80% on track. I'm worried about the 20%, whether it's a
say it was like
Strasburg lays an egg, or Scherzer gets hurt,
or if they have to go to a bullpen game.
Corbin can't control it, or if you have a bullpen game. Like that, those are what I'm worried about.
I think the reason I was more convinced this year was because when things look right, Rainey is really good. Rainey's really good when things go right. I'd say you get a good start with him 2 out of every 3 starts, I'd say. Mixed with Doolittle, who's still easily just as productive as he normally is. Daniel Hudson, who I believe will be a really good pickup on the team. And Will Harris, which I love that they signed him. He was one of the best relievers in the American League last year. And he'll be on, I think, a lineup. So basically it's just a matter of can Suero and Strickland somewhat piece together a small bit of consistency. And if they can, that pitching lineup is going to be the best in baseball. So I think that's why I'm going to edge it out. Braves will be close.
They're both 90-plus win teams easily.
I see them both as 100%.
Do you think Nats are a 100-win team?
Yes. I think just about. I think say 102. Actually, no. I'll say about. I think they could win. I think it could go as far as 112.
Ooh, wow.
If the team stays healthy and bullpen doesn't fall back into what happened earlier last year.
If the old guys can stay healthy, then I think they've got a really good shot. And I'm not saying it's not going to. The Braves are not going to run away with it.
And that was the issue I had with the Braves, with starting pitching, because if you look deeper into it, the Braves got by heavily on Mike Soroka and Dallas Keuchel. And Dallas Keuchel is gone. So what does that leave? Folly Newitz, who's really inconsistent and injured. Cole Hamels, which is a high-risk, high-reward kind of scenario, even for a year.
He's got an opportunity to be pretty good.
He had some bad games, though. I watched. Last year was probably, in my opinion, one of his worst years as a player. Because I watched him against the game against the Phillies. They jacked him up, and he scored like 6 runs in 2 innings. He's had some really bad games. So I think I'm not impressed with their pitching lineup. I think bringing in a risk like Cole Hamels over what I thought was strong consistency in Dallas Keuchel was kind of a boneheaded move, personally. So I think that's why I think they'll still have a good year, but I think they'll fall short because starting pitching will definitely let them down in a lot of crucial games, especially against good teams like the Nats.
I am tired of underrating this team. Last 2 years, they were heavily underrated coming into the season.
Oh, man,
projected to be under 500 both years, and they come out and they win
90 games
90 plus games every year. It's just the model of consistency that they built with that young core is
especially that offense
is unbelievable.
I'll give you that.
Acuna is a beast. Freddie Freeman is the single most underrated player in baseball.
Yeah.
He is consistently
strong.
He is consistently a beast at the plate, and he's a great first baseman.
He's a really good first baseman.
But he is consistently one of the best bats in baseball, but he doesn't get the love because he's not even the best player on his own team.
No, because it just goes between, if people say it's not Albies, people say it's Acuna. If people don't say it's Acuna, some people say it's Freeman, and then people say it's Nick Markakis sometimes, depending on the game.
Josh Donaldson.
No,
they
he's
don't
gone.
have anymore, but last year it was Josh Donaldson.
Yeah. And there's a lot of talent on the team, but I think but they're also going to take a big hit this year. Catcher's gone this year.
They don't have a catcher.
Ryan McCann, do. He just doesn't play a lot of games.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, he just doesn't. They don't have a consistent everyday catcher.
No, Brian McCann played about 100 of the games and pretty much all the playoffs. Trey Flowers is their backup catcher, and he played about 60 games. And I think if they give him time, he'll definitely develop because the guy is big. I saw him take a fastball to the face, bleeding from his face, and he still played the game. The guy is very resilient and big. So I think that that's be one of those things. I just think this isn't their year.
I think it's going to be interesting to watch that division play.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And then, in my opinion, this will be the division I'm really curious to see. The NL Central.
Let's save that one because I think we know where the NL West is going to go this
Oh
year.
yeah, we'll end it with the Central, but let's go to the West. I think with the West, I think the biggest problem is Dodgers always consistently seem to spend God knows how much money on big players. I rarely see them develop young players. They have them, they just don't use them.
I don't know about that.
Well, I mean,
Walker Buehler, Kike Hernandez, Gavin Lux is going to come up this year.
Is he?
Yeah.
I didn't think they were going to use
Trevor
him.
May is going to be I don't know if he's going to be a bullpen, but he's a solid pitcher. Cody Bellinger came out of that system. They consistently.
They do have a good system.
The unbelievable part about this Dodgers organization as a whole is they find a way to get the top
Insane
5
offense.
farm system in baseball, and they've had that for 10 years. Do you know how hard it is to keep the best farm system? One of the best systems in baseball.
It's
while
not
still,
entirely hard for that kind of place.
but still winning 100 games a year.
I guess that's true.
The Nationals have no farm system at all, but it did pay off.
Neither do Phillies.
Consistently, the best teams in baseball tend to have the worst farm system, which sounds kind of counterintuitive, but all the teams that are in win now mode, so Nationals, I could see. Well, Yankees don't have a great farm system. It's decent, but it's not great.
I mean, it brought up a lot of good players.
But not anymore. But what I'm saying is not anymore.
Oh, that's true.
So any team that's in win now mode, and I guess perfect example is the Nationals because they sold so many prospects to get win now players.
Which paid off, but
which obviously will pay off. But it's just it's
already
amazing
did pay
to me.
off, but
Yeah, and we love that. But
yeah,
the fact that the Dodgers can keep a top 5 farm system while still winning that many games a year is unbelievable to me. And then they swindled a trade for Mookie Betts.
yeah.
And Cody Bellinger is, I mean, who I don't even like. This has the potential to be one of the best lineups of all time.
Yeah, I think there's just one big issue with it, and I know you say it, but I think pitching is going to be a massive question mark on the Dodgers lineup going into this year. You got Kershaw, who's getting pretty old, and I think this is I think it might be his last year with the Dodgers this year. Either this year or next year. I think his contract's almost up.
His contract is almost up.
And they're probably... I have a big feeling, considering how many times he's lost in the playoffs, I don't think they're going to keep him after this time.
Well, they like their Iron Man. Clayton Kershaw has perennially been amazing.
Yeah.
For years. He's Hall of Famer. He just
Definitely.
is production. But they try to put the All-Star in a position he's not comfortable with.
Bad positions, which is
in
bullpen.
the worst situation. And it's just not... I mean, you put a high-pressure situation on him.
He chose.
Well, I wouldn't just say that because his starts were good. It's just when you put him in the 8th inning up by 2 against the heart of the lineup.
I guess, yeah, that was a bad decision.
Then, he's not going to be good because they're already hot. Then you give him a new pitcher.
Yeah, great decision, Dave Roberts.
They already have plenty of scouting. Like, starting pitchers have so much scouting, so you put him in a bullpen role, and it's just not going to end well. But
no, it's going to be awful.
That is, regardless, that is their division to lose.
Oh, no, it definitely is their division to lose because Giants are in rebuilding mode, and they're going to be laughable. It sums up that they signed Gabe Kapler, you know, the joke of head coaches. Personally, sorry.
The Padres are going to be good, but they're not yet.
I'm not impressed with their pitching. They still need a couple years.
Hovering 500 maybe. Yeah. Probably below 500. Probably a 70-win team. But
Rockies
are...
They're going to be bad. They're going to be bad this year.
They're going to be real bad this year.
Especially because Arenado wants out. I don't think he wants to stay.
Well, he doesn't have anybody around him. Their pitching is decent at best.
No, it's bad.
Like,
it's so bad. They give up more home runs than the Phillies pitching. I think that should sum up how bad their starting pitching was.
I mean, I agree that's horrible, but they do have an excuse. Like, Coors Field is ridiculous for like a hitter's ballpark. Yeah. So they're not going to do well this year. They don't have the line.
Personally, I see them at the bottom of the division. But
they're not going to be worse than the Giants, but they're 4, and then Diamondbacks.
This is a team I want to talk about. I don't know why, but it's like I look at this team and I get very intrigued because every year it looks like it starts off weird. They start around 500, and it looks like they're gonna sell and rebuild, and then right before All-Star break, this happened like 2 or 3 years in a row. They pull off this hot streak, get right around. They're nowhere near the Dodgers, but they're over 500, and they're actually a really good team to watch and see play. And then they play relatively good. They just don't ever get good enough because the Dodgers have always ran away with that division. And I think Arizona's a team that I see a lot of potential with, especially with the offensive side of the ball. I like a lot of players on that side.
Ketel
Marte, David Peralta, very underrated. Christian Walker, I had him on fantasy. The guy hits home runs like it's nothing else. If he stays consistent, that'll be a big pickup for them.
Eduardo Escobar is another
Eduardo
guy.
Escobar, huge name. They have Adam Jones, who can still produce at a high level.
And then they beefed up the pitching with... they still have Robbie Ray.
Zach Gallen will be one of my favorite players to watch this year. Very underrated when he was on the Marlins. And he picked it up heavily with Arizona to end the year, which I'm very intrigued.
And then obviously Madison Bumgarner's on that team too. So that's going to be a team that I could see hovering playoffs. But I don't think they make it.
I think they're going to come just short again, but I'm not sure yet.
But I think it's going to be close.
I definitely agree with you with that. But
they have a shot at that second wild card, and I think
if
all gonna
Dodgers
decide
implode,
what the NL Central does.
if the Dodgers implode, they still have a small shot. I personally say, because they showed times they can beat the Dodgers when it matters.
I just don't think that they can outpace the Dodgers. Like the Dodgers.
Yeah. I think that's
the Dodgers excel at beating teams that
the Dodgers are like the Yankees of the National League.
They are definitely they
got so
really
much
good.
depth. It was not just that they got depth in like every position. Not a lot of teams can say they have that. Dodgers are one of the few teams that can personally say they've got like 2 or 3 backup players who can come in and play at the MLB level. Not many teams can really say that.
Their bench is loaded. Their AAA team is loaded too.
Everything about them is loaded. But that leaves. So the Diamondbacks will definitely have to be a wait-and-see team. But that will definitely come with what's going to happen in what's going to be definitely the most chaotic division in baseball, personally. It's going to be every one of those teams, I think, besides one, is going to be a matter of who trips over themselves the least getting to the finish line. Let's start with the team that's just going to look like the worst, the Pirates. They're in rebuilding mode. They trade off a lot of their assets. They have a lot of young players. They fired their coach, their GM, I think their president as well. They fired. They're rebuilding.
They're still paying for that Chris Archer trade.
Oh yeah, they'll be for a while. Chris Archer looks horrible, personally, but there's some prospects. It's just they're definitely going to be at the bottom of that division. I think the next team I want to talk about is Chicago. They took some massive L's, in my opinion. I said this was going to be one of their last shots at potentially reaching for the World Series. And that implosion in September, especially, they were like 4 or 5 games ahead in that second wild card. Or no, they were winning the division at the start of September to falling out of the playoffs altogether. How does that happen? That's terrible. Just with the fact that they did next to nothing during the offseason. They were one of the few teams that did literally nothing.
They didn't do anything, and I was shocked by that because they need some help. They need some depth, and they need some pitching.
And the biggest thing
just
was
overall like bullpen and starters. They just
because Cole Hamels is gone.
They lost Cole Hamels and who's the other guy? Their closer.
Oh,
you know who I'm talking about?
Isn't it Pedro Strop?
No. The guy like used to be on the Red Sox.
Craig Kimbrell.
Yep.
He's not there anymore?
No, he's there. He's just
really inconsistent.
Yes. So that team, I really don't. I mean, this has the idea to be, or this has the makings of one of the most competitive divisions in baseball, but it could also very well be a one-horse race.
Because Chicago?
The Brewers are done. Their window is gone. They lost so many pieces.
Yeah.
Yelich is one of my favorite players, but he's on it. And then Keston Hiura is the other guy.
What about Kane?
Low Kane gets hurt too much, I think, to be incredibly productive. He's still a Gold Glove, but I don't see him being an all-star, like, offensively. I never thought he was.
When they lost players like Moustakas and Shoop, I had a feeling they were going to...
Eric Thames is gone, too.
When they started losing those kind of players, I had a feeling it was not going to look good going.
It's weird to me because they sold, but they didn't buy. So they let a bunch of guys walk.
They picked up some pitching, but they didn't do much for the offense.
A bunch of guys got big contracts. Moose got a huge contract. Thames got a pretty big contract. But they didn't sign anybody to a big contract. Like, usually when you let a guy walk,
I think the biggest guy they signed was...
like, fill the holes.
Really, the biggest player they signed was Brett Anderson from the A's to make that starting pitching better. And that starting pitching, they live and die by it. Because there was one guy, what's their name? Brandon Woodruff. When he's there and healthy, he looks like a top-tier ace in the league. But that's the big component when he's healthy. Mixed with the fact that the rest of their lineup is very shaky. Gio's gone.
Gio was never great anyway,
but I always thought he was
good depth.
I always thought he was a good mid
like a 3 or 4.
Yeah, which is hard to come by in the league.
But I mean,
Brett Anderson could do the same, but I don't know.
and
I think that's just gonna lead to more issues. So they live and die by their pitching at this point this year. If their pitching falls apart, they're done. Their year is over, and they're gonna be probably fourth. I personally believe.
They lost Grandal too.
Yeah, Grandal's gone. They lost so much on the offensive side of the ball.
And it was confusing to me because we all know how competitive the Cubs and the Brewers are. That's pretty much. I mean, I know the Cubs-Cards is the real rivalry in the division technically, but Cubs-Brewers last couple of years
have always been
really competitive.
It's been like the last 5.
They especially last couple of years they have bought and sold together. So when one team buys, the other team will have to pick up a piece just because.
And one team sells, the other team thinks they can get away with selling a little bit.
So I think that had something to do with the Cubs not picking up pieces. Because the Brewers didn't get any better. So they got a lot worse.
They got a lot worse.
So I don't see the Brewers getting out of that, getting into the playoffs, especially in what I think will be a competitive wild card race, as it always is in the National League.
Yeah.
It's not going to be as many teams, but the teams that are there are going to be close.
It will be very close.
But my opinion is Cardinals easily win this division. The only team that dark horse I just don't understand is the Reds.
And I'll talk about the Reds in a minute. I want to talk about the Cardinals because personally, when I saw the Cardinals in what was it, like June or July, they were like 500, and I was like, okay, they look all right. They've got some things. They look okay. Goldsman and Ozuna are good. That second half of the year, I don't know what happened.
It went off.
Offense clicked. It's just everything clicked. Pitching stepped it up between, Jack Flaherty. Adam Wainwright produced well considering he's getting up there in age. He had a really solid year personally. Who else did they have?
There was the other young stud, but I forget his name.
Jack Flaherty, there was someone else, I forget. There's a couple others. They had some really solid pitching mixed with good offense.
Goldschmidt, Yachty had a great second half.
Yachty had a really good second half. And they have some really good depth pieces as well. Paul DeJong, one of the most underrated players in the league, personally, I'd say. He was insane. Colton Wong brought some good bats to the lineup as well. Mixed with the talent that Ozuna and Goldsmith were asked to provide, Cardinals surged, and I was very impressed. And that's why I also like that. I like that organization for the fact that, they're frustrating because they're really cheap a lot of the time, but I think they're also really good because they're like the A's and the Rays in their respective league because they get a lot of their strength through their farm system. And I think that's where they get a lot of them, so they don't have to go out and constantly buy 3 or 4 big quality players. They only really have to go out each year and get 1, because a lot of the young talent will almost always consistently help him out. Mixed with if they actually get a closer this year, because Carlos Martinez ain't it.
Well, he also had Tommy John, so he can't be it.
Yeah.
He's not available for a while.
I guess that's also true. I forgot about that.
He got it in, I think, July or August, so...
If they don't they need to find a closer. That's going to be the big question going this year. If they want to throw themselves to the top of that tight division, bullpen and closing will be the massive, massive key factor towards it.
This is going to be a tight division, but it is not going to be the absolute madness that it was last year. Like it's not going to be. It's not going to be a 3-horse race.
I think it might.
It's not going to be. I don't know if the Cardinals can step up. Is the only question I have about them, because they have every opportunity to put their foot on the gas and just leave it there, and to win by 10 games. They have win the division by 10 games. They have the potential to do that.
But they also have the problem of
on paper, it looks like to me that they're going to run away with this division. But the problem is
I wouldn't say run away, but edge out.
I just don't see. I just don't see any other teams. I mean, I don't know about the Reds. The Reds are confusing, but the Cubs. The Cubs are decent.
They're bordering. They look like a team that's on the win now kind of play.
I mean, the Cubs window is almost closed.
Yeah, I said Cubs have. I said about one more year. This is their very last shot at trying to make something happen.
Chris Bryant goes on the market soon.
Chris Bryant. What about players
Rizzo.
like Javier Baez, Rizzo, and Contreras? They'll probably want to get on the market soon. Hayward's getting up there in age. So, I think, and that leaves with the one team that I don't think anybody knows what's going to happen with them. I don't understand. I looked at the Reds last year, and I saw good things, but overall, I'm not convinced yet. If they get some some offense, then they'll go far. But I don't know. They're really confusing to look at. So, at the end of the day, I think it's just going to come down to, will the Reds finally put it all together?
Because I know they picked up Moose and they picked up Castellanos.
Mixed with that strong pitching.
And they do have pretty strong pitching. And
a very underrated closer. I think Raziel Iglesias has the chance to break out next year. So, I think at the end, I'm going to say, this is going to be my craziest one yet. I'm going to say the Reds are going to edge out that division barely. And with wild cards, I'm going to say, I think the Braves are going to fall short. I'm saying St. Louis and the Diamondbacks are going to squeak into the wild card, with the Braves falling just short.
I said Braves are going to win that division, so the Nationals are going to host the wild card game.
Yeah.
But I think they play. I don't know. I'm kind of torn because I think it could go either way between Cincinnati and Arizona, but I think Arizona wins it.
Fair enough.
I think it's going to be close, and those are both teams that have historically not stepped it up.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Somebody will. Or if they both don't, then somebody will be good enough.
Yeah. So, with that is the end of my second podcast. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and definitely share this. I want to get this reach out to everybody. And with that, I've been Nick.
I'm Zach.
And we signing off. See ya.
See y'all.